Welcome back, gang, to Death Curse Society. We got one more piece of business to take care of, and you know what that is. Let me ask you a question.
Here's Johnny.
Our question today comes from Instagram, actually. Our user, Echo8Charlie. He asked, are we tired of Hollywood horror lacking any imagination anymore? Well, since we have already talked about the lacking imagination of The Prodigy and remakes like Child's Play in this episode, but we've also praised the originality of Velvet Buzzsaw, Us, and other stuff in this episode.
Scary Stories.
And Scary Stories. I think it's getting better. Let's start with Molly on this.
It's picking up in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've kind of talked about it in this episode. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Jordan Peele, Twilight Zone. But if you look over the past 2 decades with the remakes and the reboots and just the stories that are just the same movie, just with a different title, and yeah. Oh God, I mean, you know, I really hope that they're picking it up and it's going to continue to get better. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're fans of horror regardless if it does or not. But yeah, for a long time I was tired of it, and I'm kind of glad that it is getting a little bit fresher. You know, I mean, there's plenty of ideas. I mean, these people just really need to think. You know, put that production value to use instead of rebooting Chucky. Fuck, you know.
Fuck Chucky.
So I'm kind of in between. I mean, I get to where, yes, it had been lacking big time. And in some areas it is peaking and getting a little better, but let's just hope it continues. But yeah, no more reboots and remakes, please. Come on.
Yeah, I think we're, you know, the trends seem to go through ebbs and flows like anything. Music does the same thing. Movies, TV does the same thing. We're cruising up to a high point right now, I think. Hopefully it stays high and kind of, you know, levels out at a high point for a while. We know that's not going to happen forever, but if we can ride this wave for 3-4 years, maybe, we'll be in good shape. You know, but something's going to come along, like Zag mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and fuck it up. You know, somebody's going to rush a movie into production. It's going to suck. It's going to bomb at the box office. And then every studio is going to be afraid to produce a horror movie. It happened a few years ago when Rings came out, which stopped Friday the 13th and fucked us all out of a sequel with Jason. And it's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen. But while we're here right now, there's a lot of original voices out there. Guillermo del Toro, Jordan Peele. Let's find some more. Let's find some more like these guys. Even John Krasinski with A Quiet Place. That wasn't too bad, you know? And that's got a sequel coming out pretty soon. Zigzag, go ahead and give me your thoughts, and I got one other thing I want to add.
You guys pretty much stepped on everything I was going to say, but I'm going to go back with it. It's fine. You're right that we have a fresh crop of guys carrying the banner, as it were, right now with new content. You know, the Get Out, the Us, that stuff. You know, and the Scary Stories. Like I said, printed works that haven't been done yet. There is stuff there that can be done as original. As you know, like I said, we're kind of rehashing. Just inadvertently already answered your question. You know, I mean, yeah. But I disagree with these guys on the remake front, because I believe, you know, I would love to see several properties from the 80s slasher era remade in the modern time, and I'd be all for it. You know, One Dark Night, Madman, The Burning, you know, stuff like that could be redone and probably done well too. You know, I get it. The formula is played out and everything, but you know, hey, if you can come out and someone can give me a pretty decent Evil Dead remake, which it wasn't horrid, you know, like The Fog.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, I just think that's who we hold accountable, are the people in charge of greenlighting the movies. They're the studio assholes that have no fucking touch or connection to the pulse of the horror community that we are in and live and breathe, yeah, it's just a matter of time before the next Rings comes along and derails the whole fucking thing. And that's just nothing we can do about it. So enjoy it while you can, and you know, go out and support your local horror, man, and you know, go see this shit. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I get what you're saying, Zag, with the remakes, and there's a lot that could be done and would be cool to see. Yes, there are, but how many other remakes can we actually say in the past 2 decades have been good? I can count maybe on a hand, and they've done dozens and dozens.
Yeah.
So it's not the fact that, yeah, they should, or it would be cool to see it. Sure, it would be cool to see a remake of fucking Killer Clowns from Outer Space. But is it going to be good? Are they going to do it good? I mean, they're not all going to be the Hitcher. To me, that was one of the best remakes, and I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off with all these other movies. They're going to dump some money into it, and it's going to be shit.
It also seems that right now what's chic isn't really the remake, but the long-term sequel with decades away, but it still connects to the original movies, you know, which I'm okay with that too. Either way, you know, I mean, if you wanted to do The Burning Part 2 40 years later, what the fuck? Let's see it. What do you got, you know?
Well, and in that vein, you can get away with watching the latest Halloween. I think you're using as the example, correct?
Yeah.
You can watch the latest Halloween without seeing the first one. You really could. You know, there might be a few things you don't really catch on to, but it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, you could just go off the premise that she was traumatized by this guy a long time ago.
Yeah.
Be like, you know, it kind of leaves you, I wonder what that first one was like.
And then go back.
You know, what did happen? Yeah. You don't need to see it. You could just be like, oh, man, she's got PTSD hard. This guy must have really fucked her over. I got to see the first one. So it really makes you kind of want it for the younger kids to be like, man, I'm going to see the first one. I want to see what fucked her up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like something with The Burning. I know you've mentioned that a couple times. Like The Burning, yeah, I mean, at the time, you know, and I've heard a lot of people say that's the better of Friday the 13th over The Burning is better than the original Friday because they were both around the same time. And I was like, you know, Burning, it's got a story there. I mean, dude getting burned by the kids, you know, coming back and fucking them up.
It's a revenge tale, you know. And
little revenge tale.
Colonel, jump in on this.
All right, well, you guys seem to be doing a pretty good job of it, so I was just waiting patiently like a fucking rattlesnake. I wait for my prey to approach before I attack.
The viper.
The lack of imagination. See, man, it's kind of the double-edged sword all of us horror fans live with. Yeah, you know, I am getting tired of recycled garbage. But also, my favorite horror franchise, Friday the 13th. Fucking recycled garbage. It's the same fucking thing.
And it was that way almost every year through the 80s, you know?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's really is a double-edged sword we fucking live with.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just not Hollywood. In the indie horror scene, make a quick buck. The Nun came out. Mm-hmm. Well, fuck, they have 3 or 4 other movies called The fucking Nun on video on demand. Mm-hmm. They've been doing that shit for years. Am I tired of it? Yes. And I agree with Crank on this. We are starting to see an uptrend of original ideas. We all know it's going to fucking bottom out here within the next 5 years or so.
It won't make it 5.
Because there's only so many remakes and reboots you can do. I'll be honest with you guys. I'd love to see a Pumpkinhead reboot. Fucking love it. But what would they do? They'd fuck it up, use CGI for Pumpkinhead, and just ruin it. So it's like, I would love to see it, but I don't want to see it at the same time. That is a good question, man, because it's a fucking lose-lose. There's no winner in this.
No, it's a very good question. And one thing I want to bring up is when we did the review, like just an overall look at what's coming out in 2019, I think we talked about 16 movies. I went back and counted 11 of those were either reboots, remakes, or a sequel. 11 out of the 16 major horror releases this year are retreads of some sort. So that, you know, yeah, it's a little disappointing, but like Colonel, I do like the continuing storylines of like the Halloween, of like Friday the 13th, even most of Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, Texas Chainsaw, some of those stories. We already talked about how we liked parts of Child's Play storyline, and then it just went off the fucking rails. They tried to do what Freddy was trying to do and be funny, and fucking failed miserably. But there are so many voices out there that want to dip their toe in the movie making with screenwriting, and Hollywood will barely hire the 0.001% of the screenwriters out there. I mean, you have, in the horror world, you maybe have like 5 or 6 writers that are attached to multiple different projects, like Lee Wannell, for instance. He's attached to like 2 or 3 different franchises right now, and getting ready to reboot. What was it we were talking about a while back? Escape from New York. Mm. I know that's not necessarily horror, but I mean, it's one of John Carpenter's best films, and you know, but they stick with all these same writers instead of trying to get an original voice, you know, from out in the world. It's tough business. You know, I agree. It's a very tough business. You don't want to necessarily put a script or an idea in the hands of some unpolished writer, but sometimes you got to just fucking take a chance, you know? And that's on people out there creating too. You know, if you can't get your script to Hollywood, find a buddy with money and find another buddy that wants to shoot a low budget film and do it. You know, put it out or shoot like a small version of it, like a short version.
Spec. Yep, it's a spec.
You know.
Do a scene or two, a key scene from it. Sell it that way.
If you get it, I mean, that's what these fan films, like Friday the 13th fan films, are basically trying to do. You think if, you know, Sean, once the lawsuit and everything is resolved, you think Sean Cunningham isn't watching these fan films? You know he is. You think Victor Miller, who hopes to have a piece of the pie soon, isn't watching these fan films? You know they are. And if they see something they like, they may contact you. That's what these fan films are hoping for, you know? So get out there, create, make something, shoot something. Send it to us, you know?
Yeah.
We'll read it.
Yeah.
We'll watch it. We'll talk about it. We'll tell you if it's good or not, you know? Why the hell not? But
shit, it's good. We'll lift you, man. We'll get you lifted.
Yeah.
Well, see, this is the problem here. This is the horror genre that we all love. We know that the horror genre is the black sheep of the movie genre.
Oh, definitely.
Always has been, always will be. You know, even when it was popping in the 70s and 80s, the slasher movies, people were, just throw some money in there, go make a horror movie. We'll make something out of it. But I'm not looking for a masterpiece, because what horror movie, there's very few horror movies that are like awesome, like good movies, like great movies, where everything is just like, you know, Academy Award winning type shit. You're not going to really get that. It's horror. What we look for and what we really love, why Colonel likes Fridays and stuff like that, is not because the movies are great. It's just there's certain things about those movies that you just get something that you love, you know? Give me some. Doesn't have to be a necessarily original idea. Go ahead and do another Friday, but do it so you leave me with something like, man, yeah, I liked a couple of them scenes. Yeah, you know, it's another sequel, but fuck, it's still, you know, good. Jason's killing again. Give me something that I could take away from this movie instead of watching hour and a half piece of trash and being like, yeah, I saw the Babadook. I don't remember. I couldn't tell you about it, but I watched it. Now, you go, okay, I didn't like Jason Part 8, but I could still tell you every fucking scene. I mean, it's because things stood out in the movie, you know? Pop, 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 pop.
Right.
That's what they need. They need something for the horror fans to hang on to and be like, all right, you know, I can dig what they were trying to do there, you know?
Well,
it doesn't have to be a great movie. You don't have to be masterpiece. Just give me something.
And another thing that's difficult with the horror genre, though, is you have two completely diametric audiences that you are trying to, or you're normally only going for one kind of audience out of the two so far apart audiences. You got your hardcore, old school horror fans, kind of like we are with Halloween and Friday and blah. you've got that. You know, Halloween, the new one in 2018, really blended those lines together by only taking or being a sequel to the original and being new enough and original enough that it could appeal to a younger audience. But then you've also got these other movies like Happy Death Day to You that appeal only, well, primarily to a younger, you know, hipper, faster,
or unfriended or something. Yes,
right. You know, things like that. So it's hard to bridge that gap if you're going for something like that. So, you know, get an original idea, write it down, you know, script it out, read it to your friends, you know, get feedback from people, like your true friends, not your stroke fest friends. They're just going to tickle your balls and say, oh yeah, that's so good. No, you need to find an asshole like me that, you know, saw a girl just last night and she was just like, oh, you like my new haircut? And I was like, you look like shit today. What happened to you? And you know, granted, she didn't talk to me the rest of the night, but that's fine. I'm not a big fan of hers anyway. But, you know, you need a friend like that to read your shit and say, fuck, no, this sucks. Or it's a good idea, it just needs some work. I'm getting a little passionate about this because it's about writing, it's about creating, and that's what I like. Colonel, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I want to plug a fucking movie real quick, just because we're talking about this and lack of originality. I mean, if you guys haven't watched it already, for you three or even the people watching right now, the last movie with original idea that I absolutely loved was 2016's The Barn. Very low budget, decently the acting was decent. The special effects were really fucking good for low budget. It's on the app Tubi right now, so there's no excuse for people can't watch this movie. It's fucking free. It's a free app. Watch it. Okay. That movie is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Are we going to see something like that from Hollywood? Fuck no.
Which one is it? What? Give me a little bit of that.
All right, it's pretty much a real quick summary. These kids are like seniors in high school. They're going to a concert on Halloween night. They stop off to have a little pre-party at this barn where the legend says if you knock 3 times to say trick or treat, you awaken 3 demons. Well, they do that, and of course, these 3 demons, albeit look low budget as shit, but it's still cool, show up and start fucking slaughtering the town, man. I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's like the most basic description I can give you guys. I'll give anything.
Okay. I think I've seen it on there. I'm not sure if I watched the trailer for that one, though.
Yeah, it was a good movie, man. So there are some original ideas. It's just, we talked about this before. We don't have Blockbuster anymore. We don't have Hollywood Video. We don't have Movie Gallery. You really have to find this shit nowadays. Right. And it hurts everything. Before, hell, we all did it. Yeah. We'll go to the movie store on a Friday night. I'd pick something based on the fucking cover.
Right. That was the thing. You rented it, so you're going to finish it. You're gonna watch this regardless if it's good or bad. And then that's what got you like finding these hidden gems. But now with Netflix and all these other places, it's like, 5 minutes, move on. 5 minutes, move on. It's like, you know, back when you had to rent it, it was like, well, I fucking rented it, took it home, I'm gonna watch it. Yeah. It was a lot more physical, you know, you more intimate with the movie than you are now. Now it's just like swipe. It looks like shit now. Yeah. So yes, the VHS days really did help.
One last thing I will throw into for people out there that are creators that want, or writers or producers or directors that want to make movies or horror movies specifically. You know, come up with an idea, and this is a basic writing trick. Come up with an idea that you can summarize in 25 words or less. And one of the best pitches I've heard in a while was how Jordan Peele actually sold, this isn't a horror movie, but how he sold the idea to Spike Lee for Black Klansman. And all he did was he walked into a room and he said, here's my pitch. A black man infiltrates the Ku Klux Klan. 6 fucking words. Spike Lee made a fucking deal on the spot. Done deal. So make it simple, make it basic, but, you know, at least the pitch, basic. But throw your heart into it, man. Put your heart into your art. That's what I always say. And write something, make something, put it out there in the world. Take a chance of, you know, getting some criticism. And have a good day. Anybody else? Zag.
Yeah, I mean, Colonel mentioned the barn there, a fine independent effort, and as we're saying independent, new ideas. Well, the barn 2 currently crowdfunding.
Oh, is it?
Yes,
Nice.
It is. So I mean, get a good idea, then as we do, run it into the fucking ground. So I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe we get a little more money behind it this time. It'll be less of a low budget movie.
Well, and I think you guys can all agree with me on this. I mean, the reason we like the Friday the 13th and the Halloween, even new versions of it, is the nostalgia factor. Nostalgia is a huge part of it, And yeah, have like 5 of the last 12 Friday the 13th movies pretty much sucked? Yeah. But I'm still going to go see the 13th one the day it's in the theater. You know why? Because of nostalgia, and I love the horror genre. So, yeah, right. I'm going to be straight up Jason's ass.
Straight up.
Woo!
How many of us can say that our favorite horror movies are new? No. They're all old.
Yeah.
So, nostalgia, being younger, growing up with it, seeing it a shitload of times. So I get why a younger crowd is going to be more attracted to what's new now, because when we were kids, what we like now is what we were watching then. So I get it, but it's kind of unfortunate with the way a lot of these horror movies are. Oh man, I love The Rings.
No.
Huh?
Yeah, I don't know anybody that says that. No. I personally don't. So fuck them. I mean, if that's what you like, that's what you like. Good for you. But I don't know anybody that says that. I was 7 years old when I was introduced to Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2 at a drive-in. Great fucking venue to see it, And it stuck with me, and it still sticks with me. And I still go back and watch those movies 2 or 3 times a year, Still to this day, 40-something years later.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it. So get out there, create, have a good time, put it out there on YouTube or whatever, and see what happens, YouTube is the future. All right. I think that wraps up our conversation for that. Am I right? Anybody else?
Great question.
Great question, though. It got a bunch of shit.
Well, actually, if you look, no, I'm just fucking with you guys. I think
I had a feeling that was coming.
I was expecting him to be like, well, I've got some more notes to talk about here, Let me go through these. Fuck you and your notes. No. But no.
Cubes.
Hey, Echo 8 Charlie, thank you for the great question. I don't know how we're going to fit all this in the show, but we're going to try, or we'll do like a separate piece, a quick cut, and we'll release that as well.